English 1A, Reading and Composition. Today's lecture is on integrating sources. Quotations, summaries, paraphrases, and facts will help you develop your argument, but they cannot speak for you. You can use several strategies to integrate information from research sources into your paper while maintaining your own voice. Use quotations appropriately, limiting your use of quotations. Although it is tempting to insert many quotations in your paper and to use your own words only for connecting passages, do not quote excessively. In your academic writing, keep the emphasis on your ideas. Use your own words to summarize and to paraphrase your sources and to explain your points. Sometimes, however, quotations can be the most effective way to integrate a source's idea. When to use quotations? When language is especially vivid and expressive. When exact wording is needed for technical accuracy. When it is important to let the debaters of an issue explain their position in their own words. When the words of an authority lend weight to an argument. When the language of a source is the topic of your discussion, as in an analysis or interpretation. It is not always necessary to quote full sentences from a source. To reduce your reliance on the words of others, you can often integrate language from a source into your own sentence structure. Example: Kissy and Sam observed that technology in the workplace has been accompanied by an array of problems that needed quick answers, such as electronic monitoring to prevent security breaches. Using the ellipsis marks and brackets. Two useful marks of punctuation, the ellipsis mark and brackets, allow you to keep quoted material to a minimum and to integrate it smoothly into your text. The ellipsis mark. To condense a quoted passage, you can use the ellipsis marks, 3 periods with spaces between, to indicate that you have left words out. What remains must be grammatically complete. In the above example, the writer has omitted from the source of words floppy or zip before disk and or a confederate after oneself. On the rare occasion when you want to leave out one or more full sentences, use a period before the 3 ellipsis dots. Ordinarily, do not use an ellipsis mark at the beginning or at the end of a quotation. Your readers will understand that the quoted material is taken from a longer passage, so such marks are not necessary. The only exception occurs when you have dropped words at the end of the final quoted sentence. In such cases, put 3 ellipsis dots before the closing quotation mark and parenthetical reference as in the previous example. Make sure omissions of ellipsis marks do not distort the meaning of your source. Brackets allow you to insert your own words into quoted material. You can insert words in brackets to clarify a confusing reference or to keep a sentence grammatical in your context. You also use brackets to indicate that you are changing a letter from capital to lowercase or vice versa to fit into your sentence. Setting off long quotations. When you quote more than 4 typed lines of prose or more than 3 lines of poetry, set off the quotation by indenting it 1 inch from the left margin. Long quotations should be introduced by an informative sentence, usually followed by a colon. Quotation marks are unnecessary because the indented format tells readers that the passage is taken word for word from the source. Use signal phrases to integrate sources. Whenever you include a paraphrase, summary, or direct quotation of another writer in your paper, prepare your readers for it with a signal phrase. A signal phrase usually names the author of the source and often provides some context. It commonly appears before the source material. To vary your sentence structure, you may decide to interrupt source material with a signal phrase or place the signal phrase after your paraphrase, summary, or direct quotation. When you write a signal phrase, choose a verb that is appropriate for the way you are using the source. Are you providing background, explaining a concept, supporting a claim, lending authority, or refuting a belief? Note that MLA style calls for verbs in the present or present perfect tense, argues or has argued, to introduce source material unless you include a date that specifies the time of the original author's writing. Marking boundaries. Readers need to move from your words to the words of a source without feeling a jolt. Avoid dropping quotations into the text without warning. Instead, provide clear signal phrases, including at least the author's name, to indicate the boundaries between your words and the source's words. Take a moment to read the verbs and signal phrases. This list can also be found in your text. Establishing authority. Good research writing uses evidence from reliable sources. The first time you mention a source, include in the signal phrase the author's title, credentials, or experience, anything that would help your readers recognize the source's authority. When you establish your source's authority, as with the phrase legal scholar in the following example, you also signal the reader your own credibility as a responsible researcher who has located trustworthy sources. Take a moment to review sources with no credentials and sources with credentials. Introducing summaries and paraphrases. Introduce most summaries and paraphrases with a signal phrase that names the author and places the material in the context of your argument. Readers will then understand that everything between the signal phrase and the parenthetical citation summarizes or paraphrases the cited source. There are times when a summary or a paraphrase does not require a signal phrase naming the author. When the content makes clear where the cited material begins, you may omit the signal phrase and include the author's last names in parentheses. Integrating statistics and other facts. When you are citing a statistics or another specific fact, a signal phrase is often not necessary. In most cases, readers will understand that the citation refers to the statistics or facts, not the whole paragraph. There is nothing wrong, however, with using a signal phrase to introduce a statistic or another fact. Putting source material in context. Readers should not have to guess why source material appears in your paper. A signal phrase can help you connect your own ideas and those of another writers by clarifying how the source will contribute to your paper. If you use another writer's words, you must explain how they relate to your point. In other words, you must put the source in context. It's a good idea to embed a quotation between sentences of your own. In addition to introducing it with a signal phrase, follow it with interpreted comments that link the quotation to your paper's argument. Synthesize sources. When you synthesize multiple sources in a research paper, you create a conversation about your research topic. You show readers that your argument is based on your active analysis and integration of ideas, not just a list of quotations and paraphrases. Your synthesis will show how your sources relate to one another. One source may support, extend, or counter the ideas of another. Readers should be able to see how each source functions in your argument. Considering how sources relate to your argument. Before you integrate sources and show readers how they relate to one another, consider how each one might contribute to your own argument. Placing sources in conversation. When you synthesize sources, you show readers how the ideas of one source relate to those of another by connecting and analyzing the ideas in the context of your argument. Keep the emphasis on your own writing. After all, you've done the research and thought through the issues, so you should control the conversation. The thread of your argument should be easy to identify and to understand with or without your sources. When synthesizing sources, ask yourself the following questions. Which sources inform, support, or extend your arguments? Have you varied the function of sources to provide background, to explain concepts, to lend authority, and to anticipate counter arguments? Do you use signal phrases to indicate these functions? Do you explain how your sources support your argument? Do you connect and analyze sources in your own voice? Is your own argument easy to identify and to understand with or without sources? Use of quotations. Is quoted material enclosed in quotation marks unless it has been set off from the text? Is quoted language word for word accurate? If not, do brackets or ellipsis marks indicate the change or omissions? Does a clear signal phrase, usually naming the author, prepare readers for each quotation and for the purpose of the quotation? Does a parenthetical citation follow each quotation? Is each quotation put in context? Use of summaries and paraphrases. Are summaries and paraphrases free of plagiarized wording, not copied or half copied from the source? Are summaries and paraphrases documented with parenthetical citation? Do readers know where the cited material begins? In other words, does a signal phrase mark the boundaries between your words and the summary or paraphrase, or does the context alone make clear exactly what you are citing? Does a signal phrase prepare readers for the purpose the summary or paraphrase has in your argument? Use of statistics and other facts. Are statistics and facts other than common knowledge documented with parenthetical citation? If there is no signal phrase, will readers understand exactly which facts are being cited? This concludes integrating sources. See you next time.